This is Electric Universe Eyes, and today we're going to learn about the word myth and what myths are. The word myth has generally come to identify any story that is believed to be a work of fiction. However, when analyzing myths and legends, it is important to understand the evolution of the word and how, using the word as it was originally understood, it is crucial to the unraveling of our human origins. The word myth originates from the Greek word mythos, meaning word or tale or true narrative, referring not only to the means by which it was transmitted, but also to its being rooted in truth. Mythos was also closely related to the word maio, meaning to teach or to initiate into the mysteries. This is how the word was interpreted by Homer, who is generally identified to have lived in the 7th or 8th century BCE, when composing his great works, including the Iliad, in which he meant to convey a truth. As the age of science and philosophy began questioning truth itself, the meaning of the word began to evolve. Early scientists and philosophers questioned the truth or validity of their traditional myths, thus birthing the skepticism that would forever change the meaning of the word. About 400 years later, myths became limited to fictional tales of superstition or fantasy, symbolic stories. This is how the definition of the word myth is still viewed, a story without proof. However, a 400-year-old story should not be assumed to be false merely because the proof or evidence to support it has not been found. It is possible that myths were, in fact, a way for people to explain real and perhaps perplexing events using the knowledge and beliefs of their time. In support of this theory, a number of events described in mythology, which were once considered mere fairy tales, have now been proven through archaeology to have existed. A famous example is the city Troy, which is central to Homer's The Iliad. Long considered to be a city of myth, Heinrich Schliemann's discovery of the actual site in 1868 elevated it to a place in history. Nevertheless, the remainder of the Iliad is still viewed as a myth and fantasy without any serious attempts being made to investigate whether or not there may be more truth behind the tale. Thus, we can conclude that regardless of the age of a story, a lack of supporting evidence to its truth is not evidence of its untruth, as many stories labeled as myths may, in fact, be based in reality. Of course, it may well be the case that many myths and legends are merely fanciful and imaginative stories, though it does seem unwise to immediately discount all of them when investigating their origins through explorations such as anthropology, archaeology, and other applied sciences could lead to major discoveries in the future, elevating more, quote, myths into the annals of history. This was written by a gentleman named John Black. That's the only reference I have. Something that I saved and just found again today, and wanted to share that with you because everyone I come across, they don't understand. They don't understand the basics of what I'm trying to say. And it's very difficult to convince someone that is stuck in a way that they've learned, and they have a hard time accepting new information. That leads to cognitive dissonance, and I've been through it myself. And I think the more information we can gather, the more empirical evidence, the more comparisons, the more study of ancient history, petroglyphs, we understand those are plasma formations, all the ancient writings, the scriptures, the symbolism, the statues, the monuments, these are all telling one story. It's a progression of a long story, but they're all telling the same story. Every culture across this globe is telling the same story. They're just telling it differently. They're telling it in what they know, in the language they speak, in the symbolism that they're familiar with. It's like I speak English. poquito español. I speak a little bit of Spanish, but not very much, meaning I can't explain details that I could go on for days and days and days about in English. I can't explain that to someone that only speaks Spanish. I would need a translator. And even if I translated word for word the detail of what I'm trying to describe in English, that translator changing it to Spanish, there's going to be something that's lost in translation. And that's what I am trying to show here to everybody, to all my friends and family. I believe in this stuff so much because I've spent my entire life questioning all of these things, because no one can give me solid answers. Not until these days and age where plasma physics, plasma cosmology, the electric universe theory, applying the physics of electrical engineering, taking things that are as basic as, Occam's razor. Things should be very explainable, easily explainable. And I think we try to use math and really confusing things to explain away things that no one's ever going to understand, that the masses can't get. Anyway, I'm rambling on. I believe myths are history. That's what I'm trying to say here. And I hope this narration that I shared with you today helps you understand that myths are not man-made fantasies. They are stories told by men of things men witnessed on our planet, in our skies. But it's not the same skies you and I look at today. So, there you go. I challenge you to compare more myths, look for a centralized story, or the archetypes in that story, the characters, the events, the things that took place in what chronological order. Extract the very basics from anything. Compare that to anything else. It could be religious text. It could be Native American folklore or legend. Compare those things, and I challenge you to tell me I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. Every time I set out on a new path and compare new information, my goal has been to dismiss these things. So that's what I got.